So, Thomas the Train. We all know him from our childhoods and from memes. Like many kids, I loved Thomas. I used to play with his Trackmaster toys all the time and make them crash into each other. But did you know that there's such a thing as a Thomas fandom? Yeah, this exists, which honestly, I'm not surprised, because if there's a fandom around something like Bluey, a preschool show, there is definitely a fandom around Thomas. This fandom makes their own Thomas videos, like reviews, fact videos, and even theory videos, but most of the time, they make their own Thomas stories. They sometimes use toys or models, which can be impressive at times, but most of the time, they use the game Train Simulator. And since their own series has an older audience in mind, they can add stuff like swears,
goddamn signals,
offensive jokes.
You're not really doing much to combat the stereotype of a money-crazed Jew. Why fight against the stereotype when it's more fun to play into it?
Death. And my personal favorite, World War II. This fandom is something, but to be honest, from what I've seen, I don't think it's as bad as other fandoms. Yeah, I don't get the appeal of Thomas past age 6, and I bet there are some parts of the fandom that I haven't seen yet that are probably awful, or some creepy people in the fandom that I don't know about, but I don't have a problem with anybody liking Thomas. It's just a bunch of fans making their own videos about him. They are just minding their own business, not hurting anybody at all. Plus, you can't really sexualize a train. Don't you even think about it. Really, the only thing that concerns me is if a kid finds a fan video thinking it's a normal Thomas video when it's actually not. And with YouTube being YouTube, thinking a video is kid-friendly when it's actually not, and putting it on YouTube Kids, a kid could be traumatized, just like how I was when I was 4, when I saw this.
Hi guys, I just like to let you know that
I'm a fire in my laser!
Yeah, that's really the only complaint I have with this fandom, and some creators do put disclaimers at the beginning of their videos.
This video is not made for kids. It is for older fans and adults only. So fuck off and enjoy the video.
So that's a good thing, because the Thomas fandom really loves horror. Like, there's a rabbit hole of thousands of Thomas fan horror videos, from Thomas creepypastas and in-universe ghost stories, to full-fledged movies and videos with a lot of effort put into them. A lot of them do have the same tropes and reuse story ideas, like this one, the story of Timothy, who is literally just Thomas.exe, or these videos. They are about some abandoned mansion where the trains try to restore it, but like, they get spooked by vengeful spirits or something. I don't know which one started it, but there are like 8 similar stories to this. It kinda reminds me of creepypasta trends, but not all of them are bad. Some of them are just okay, but a few I actually like Forest Horrors, a series about multiple Thomas characters experiencing different supernatural events in each episode. It's a very charming series, and it has deep connecting lore in each video and many blink it and you'll miss it moments. Kinda like FNF. I might be a little nostalgia blind by Thomas, but it's a good series. Also, there's a FNF fan game that I think is part of the fandom. No, not that one. This one. Five Nights at Smudge's is a FNAF fan game series about some of the more obscure characters from Thomas, like Smudger, and I'm definitely gonna make a video about this in the future, but now we are here to talk about what is probably the most well-known Thomas horror video of all time. Shed17 is a mockumentary that uncovers the dark, disturbing truth of Thomas and his friends. It's pretty good. Yeah, the models and animation aren't the best, but it has good pacing, and there is a lot of effort in making it feel like a documentary. Like, they added 80s news intros into old TV interviews, like they had to dig up old archive footage to make this documentary, which adds to the immersion. The creator, Paul Vitz, only made a few other videos like this. Bertha, The True Story, a mockumentary about some fucking dumb British kids show from the 80s, about some factory workers and a sentient factory machine that turns out to be evil. And Project G1, which is a sequel to Shed17, which is darker and worse than the original. Sadly, Paul didn't make any more mockumentaries. He did make a few other Thomas-related things, but that's it. He hasn't posted in like 2 years, and I have no idea what happened to him. Maybe he quit? Maybe he's working on something else? I don't know. It's sad, because I really think these mockumentaries about British kids shows being exposed is a fun idea. And I hope someday we can learn about the dark truth of Wallace and Gromit. But who knows? Maybe he'll come back? Maybe not. I don't know. Hey guys, while I was editing this video, Paul came back and he uploaded a trailer for the next installment for the Shed17 series, which is cool. So just ignore everything I say about me wishing him to come back. Alright, back to the vid. Alright, it's time to get into a video and ruin our childhoods. Shed17 starts out with the Thomas intro, but cut to modern day, which is cool and sets the tone for the rest of the video. The narrator tells us Thomas wasn't a magical tale, but it was a horrific nightmare. It's 1945 on the island of Sodor, the home of a scientist named Wilhelm Goetze. And I love his design. He just seems so unassuming, but at the same time, that face just screams he has a lot of skeletons in his closet. And here are those skeletons.
Banken werden könnten. Die Jugend ist uns verschrieben und verfallen mit Leib.
Remember kids, if there's a mad scientist around the 1930s or 40s, he's most likely a Nazi. While he claimed to be a low-ranking member who was horrified of what the Germans were doing, he actually was involved in those atrocities. But due to political rivalries, he had to flee to Britain before World War II started. He also had a kid who became a scientist, and he invented this.
DNA with mechanical implants. He called it biofusion, the technique of manipulating genetic material to splice with mechanical attachments.
I wonder if this will be important. The son starts a company, gets married, and look what came into this world.
Baby Thomas was born in 1968.
Thomas is a friendly little brat who loves to record trains and is friends with everybody. Well, except for this fat cat.
Get off my f***ing platform!
The capitalist, Sir Topham Hatt. He is hated all across the island, even to the point that he's given a new nickname.
Fat bastard. You've never met such a cold-hearted as him.
One day, Thomas and his friend are searching for a train, but they weren't careful.
Come on, it's always held up.
And remember kids, this is what happens when you don't look both ways. So don't be an idiot. Thomas's dad is understandably horrified about Thomas's accident, and takes him to a certain shed where, a year later, this comes out.
In an open invitation to the people of the island, Thomas rolled out of Shed17.
It took me a moment to realise what it was I was looking at. When he looked at me and said,
Hey, Mr. Hartley.
it dawned on me what Hans Goetze and his dad had done.
Hey, are you alright, Keith?
This understandably causes a media sensation. Many questions are asked about Thomas's existence, like, what happens if he's fired up? Will he be fine? Or will the heat from a boiler kill him? That's what I like about Shed17. It goes into details about biofusion and the implications about being a train. And also, other people want to be trains too. Some of them are millionaires who just want to do it just for the fun of it. Others are train enthusiasts who are way into their hobby. But not all of them are being biofused just for fun. There are also people with terminal illnesses who want to be biofused just to survive. Which is interesting because it shows not everyone being biofused is doing it just for the fun of it. Some of them are doing it just to survive, which is interesting. But the Goetzes aren't interested in biofusing more people. But the Fat Controller, the capitalist he is, saw an opportunity to make money. So he allows people to be biofused. You know, if technology like this existed in real life, people like Elon Musk would be super into this. Which I don't get. Yeah, it might be interesting to be a train, but I think the novelty of being a train will like wear off in a month, and you're basically now a pack mule trapped on rails for the rest of your life. The trains are now forced to work on a railroad, and the biofuels engines are starting to have problems.
Experiment kept secret until now. Mavis the diesel engine was to be the first biofuels locomotive used on the railway.
We fueled her up and everything seemed fine. Then things got out of hand.
The diesel began to burn her internal organs. Everything organic in the engine was soon burning.
Have you ever heard a locomotive scream in pain? We tried rinsing out the fuel tank with water, but by then it was too late.
Yeah, this is why I put a disclaimer. While that is happening, Thomas has been working fine, happily pulling trucks while every other biofuels engine dies around him. Then the Fat Controller starts selling the biofusion shit to other countries like China, India, and Spain. And even the freak engines stop being displayed like a freak show at the circus. Horrified about biofusion leading to the slavery of engines, Thomas's dad resigned, but his grandpa, Oh, I get it. The human characters in Thomas were made of wood, and he's made of wood too, I guess. Guess that's one way to get past YouTube guidelines. The worst biofusion disaster happened when the Fat Controller ordered Gordon, the biggest engine on Ireland, to be fired up.
Staff had finished for the day. Fat some of the rail staff and...
I love it how even the professional, very serious scientist calls him that too.
At first, Gordon complained about the heat. Then that turned to pleas to douse the fire.
But that fat bastard held us back. He wanted to see what would happen.
He argued he had put a lot of work into Gordon, and the chances to get him working were too great an opportunity. He was literally cooking from the inside. By the time we were allowed to act, it was too late.
It's pure chaos. People were panicking, the fat bastard was blaming everybody besides himself. Then, when they tried to evacuate people by helicopter, that led to a disaster too. After the disaster, they had to clean up their mess so they won't get arrested. Thankfully, Henry, one of the more successful biofuels engines, helps them out. But after a long day of cleaning up evidence, he just wanted to relax in his shed, but he was sent to the wrong shed.
It was dark, and these sheds all looked the same. I unlocked the doors and Henry rolled in. I didn't see what Henry saw, because as soon as he put his head through doors, he bolted and reversed out.
In the most anxiety-inducing office ever, Henry confronts the Fat Controller about Shed17. We don't know what they said, but it was a fucking shouting match. After that, Henry warns Thomas to stay away from Shed17.
That fat shite always hated Henry. He didn't like his cheerful manner, and he clearly had other lifestyle choices when he was a human. Fat wanted Henry away from the other engines, and Kipper Run was a death sentence.
Henry was hauling the flying Kipper and ended up crashing. Officially, it was ice and snow that caused the accident, but we all know that wasn't the case. And since Henry was heavily damaged from the crash, the Fat Controller decided to send him to a nice, peaceful place called the Scrapyard. Thomas, realizing Henry had been murdered for knowing too much, decided to investigate Shed17, because that's a smart thing to do in a situation where you know somebody's been murdered for knowing too much. So Thomas goes to Shed17 and he finds out the truth. The main reason why he worked so well and others did not. It's because he wasn't the first. He's a clone, one of many clones. The Goetz has had to work out kinks with the other clones to make the perfect Thomas. All the other biofuse engines were first attempts. They were not given the same amount of time or care as Thomas. Thomas did not find who he was, but who he wasn't. Then this happens.
He had no idea he was only one of many clones. None of us did. But I guess as time passed, we stopped asking all the questions we had at first. We were just glad our friend was back with us. He could work for us. He became our servant in a way. Someone who drew in the crowds, helped create jobs, was eager to work. Thomas always thought of us as his friends. Sadly, over time we came to think of him as just really useful.
After that, Shed17 was investigated by the government and biofusion was banned in Britain. The fat ass vanished without a trace. Thomas had to go through many surgeries, eventually ending up in an iron lung. Biofusion was later banned in Europe, but in China, political prisoners are turned into biofused trains. I was gonna make a joke how the Chinese government would do something like this in real life, but this feels racist. Besides that, Shed17 is a really fun mockumentary. It's very well done and I highly recommend it. Yeah, some things could have been better, but the story and lore is very well thought out. And I really like the explanation why the other trains failed, except for Thomas, and I really did not expect the clone twist. It's honestly kind of clever. I think it's clever when they explain the dark truth behind your favorite kids show in a in-universe documentary instead of a, "Look kids, your favorite cartoon character is evil." It's kind of like in real life when your favorite YouTubers get exposed. Life really does imitate art sometimes. I could see this type of documentary shit being used in very creative ways. And I hope there are more of these in-universe documentaries because they are interesting. But let me know what you guys think. Guess that's it. Bye, comrades.